So welcome back, fans. I'm so excited because this is my very first episode with a guest, and go big or go home. I have a guest on who's, 10,000 times more famous than I am, but she's a really important guest to have on the show. So we have Mary Cain. For those who might not know her, Mary Cain is a professional middle distance runner and Tracksmith New York City manager. She was the youngest American to represent the US at a World Championships meet back in 2013 at age 17, and she has run some really remarkable times and set records and distances from 800 meters to the 3,000 meters in the sport of track and field. In 2019, Mary publicly shared her story of the physical and mental abuse that she endured while at the Nike Oregon Project through a video op-ed with the New York Times. Since then, Mary has spoken out about her experiences with Red S, disordered eating, mental health, and has given a voice to female athletes who are struggling with these experiences themselves. In 2020, Mary entered races again, officially making kind of a professional comeback after a few years, and she's also one of my clients here at Rise Up Nutrition. So welcome, Mary, to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Lindsay. And it's an honor to be your first of what I am sure will be many guests.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, go big or go home. We'll have Mary for the first one. Give us an update on things that the year 2020 has brought for you and how your life has changed since coming out with that story over a year ago.
In the beginning half, it was maybe kind of an aggressive push by me to really try to get back in shape. When I shared my story with the New York Times in November of 2019, I had really only been running for about a month at that point and had a long ways to go in terms of the fitness game. And so in early 2020, I was racing myself to shape. Things were feeling really good. It was the first season that I was able to, finish in 3.5 to 4 years. And I was very fortunate to, at the same time, be signing an employee contract with Tracksmith, which is a running apparel brand in Boston, and therefore almost jumping into a full-time job in which not only my athletic career would be supported, but also during this time of tumultuous upheaval within not only the sports world, but the world at large, I was able to lock into a financial situation where I could, maybe feel comfortable really fighting for this ability to stay in the sport of track and field and continue to progress as an athlete. July of this year, I had to get surgery because I had hip impingement. Incredibly disappointed to have that diagnosis, but I think it was kind of a long time coming. I kind of was feeling hip pain for a couple months, and there had been kind of on and off things before. I was able to have both the flexibility and the support to say, this is the year to do it. And so really the last 4 months has been me rehabbing and getting back up to running. And I'm happy to say I'm doing that. And, in many ways, feeling better than ever. I think what has changed for me by joining Tracksmith is, one, I have this purpose in the sport, I guess, bigger now than what I used to have as just an athlete. And so it's nice to be able to have a job that I am paid to do that is very fun, only positive stuff, and my running is supported. So it's kind of this best of all worlds, so that then other passions like I have, such as my advocacy work, don't necessarily kind of fill up my whole day, and I can kind of shut both my running brain off and my advocate brain off.
Yeah, with professional athletes and potentially even collegiate level athletes, so much of your day and your identity is just surrounded by just being an athlete and feeling those pressures of that stack up. And they're external pressures from your team and your coach, and also internal. And I think this is a lesson for anybody to just kind of diversify yourself a little bit.
And I think part of it too is that as an athlete, if you are the most elite of elite, right, and you're in the sport of track and field, you're max doing stuff for 4 hours. Mm-hmm. Some of the almost time-consuming work that we have to do is really more the runs, the lift, the recovery routines, whether that's yoga, stretching, Pilates, or, sitting in your compression boots.
Yeah.
And then just seeing people like physical therapist, massage therapist. Those are kind of the 4 things.
Yeah.
And if each of them take an hour every day and you don't do all of these things every day, that's 4 hours. So there's just a lot of time left for you to overthink things. And so for me, I think there's a certain point where it's just important to know what's good for you and what's bad for you. And I've learned that, maybe there are some athletes who can just really shut off and watch TV for 4 hours. But, I'm the person who's like, I have to stretch, or I have to be reading something, or like, I almost find it hard not to multitask. In a general sense, I think being able to have meaning outside of your running, or even your relationships, is very rewarding. I almost want my results to matter. I left the program that I was with, the Nike Oregon Project, right after the Olympic trials in 2016. The reason I left was because my current coach, and the coach that I was working with while I was in high school, and who was kind of advising me while Alberto was also writing the plans, caught me cutting myself. And he called my parents, and they were super freaked out. And for a parent that, isn't in the sports world and didn't really know what to do, they honestly made me leave the team. I was in denial for the next 3.5 years about what was going on while I was on the Oregon Project. The reason that I shared my New York Times piece when I did is not because, I was sitting on this knowledge for X amount of time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I read that USADA piece in which Alberto Salazar got banned that I realized, oh, wow, all of that behavior that I had condoned by them and almost put on myself as a sign that I was weak, that I was the problem, that I was an issue, actually was abusive behavior. And until that moment, I never put a name to it. So the reason that for about 3.5 years, I really, really struggled is because I had trouble actually addressing what the issue was. Yeah. And I think for me, as a result, a lot of my relationship was very fraught, and I was stuck in this injury cycle, and constantly getting these bone-based injuries. The first stress fracture I had, I said, no, I'm not too skinny, I'm fine, this was just a fluke, something happened. And then the second one I got was very severe, and it was a femoral neck stress fracture. And it was in that moment that I accepted I can't handle running at this weight. And I need to gain weight. Very specifically chose Reds. Yeah. And I think the reason is because it's a conversation opener. It is. In a way really rigid triangle isn't. Yeah. But telling somebody you have Reds, there are people who are on that spectrum who don't have an eating disorder.
A lot of my clients do not have eating disorders.
Yeah, you can totally just not necessarily have the right diet for what you need. It doesn't mean you're trying to restrict, but you can be on it. There are other people who have severe eating disorders who haven't broken a bone yet, and they're on the spectrum. So I think the more, I'm personally somebody who feels the more you can be inclusive of others, and the more there's almost a caringness to how you're projecting the message, the more likely you're going to have a recipient who feels seen, who feels heard, and is receptive to, kind of maybe facing the hard facts. But I think for me, part of the reason I'm doing this, and it sounds silly, but it's because I'm like, if I have a daughter 20 years from now, I don't want to accidentally project all of this onto her. Yeah. If that's what this is. And I almost don't want her to look at her mom and see somebody who's, pushing aside the pizza slice, or not eating breakfast, or, trying to caffeinate themselves to get through the day. Making the steps so that they can see somebody who eats well, is confident in how they look, and no matter what my future child chooses to do, that they know their mom's going to be cheering for them on the sideline no matter what.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And it is such a motivator. It's one thing to do things for yourself, and it's like another level of motivation when you do things for other people, even the theoretical other people, like your future children. I think for me too, and why I decided, as a sports dietitian, I've helped lots of different types of athletes, and running is my personal passion, but that is one reason that I kind of settled on my business, Rise Up Nutrition, on doing exactly this, on helping female athletes overcome disordered eating, is just because, like you said, like if you could prevent one person from feeling this way that you feel, that is so powerful. And going back to words too, I know it's just literally just swapping the words, but that's one reason I say disordered eating and not eating disorders, because quite frankly, in the society that we live in and diet culture that exists, like most people have some disordered eating habits, thoughts, behaviors, whether it causes harm to their life or not. And of course, it's when it is causing harm, whether it's that spectrum of red S or just the mental like relationship with food, those are things we want to address. But I think everybody can learn nutrition in a healthier way, in a more positive way, in a way that is setting a good example for other people, in a way that you can eat a pizza and enjoy it and not think twice about it, And I think that's important for everybody, including athletes. And so that kind of leads me to my next question for you, which is, as an athlete, where nutrition's important as an athlete, and we've been working together now. So like, what are some ways that you're moving forward with your nutrition, even still like with thinking about performance nutrition, or do you have to think about performance nutrition? Like, what's your approach to nutrition now?
So I think a really big thing is that I've learned what I like and I don't like in terms of to eat. So for example, I'm somebody who I tend to prefer like a sweeter breakfast, whether that means like having a bowl of oatmeal, making a smoothie, something kind of like that. And in the past, I used to almost like force myself to eat eggs and like a salad for breakfast. And I just realized, the difference between the two is not incredibly substantial in terms of any of the kind of, caloric otherwise. And maybe I need to lean more into having protein or fibers or something like that earlier in the day. But I almost have my set, like these are the things I like to eat, and I lean into it across the day. And therefore it just gives me a little less maybe opportunity to overthink it. And then if I do choose, like we're going out for dinner, then hell, I'm just going to look at the menu and I'm going to lean into whatever I want. And when it comes to the performance side, I think really the big things for me that I've been working on is one, eating more consciously around my cycle, and really kind of like the difference between your follicular and luteal stages and how I should do like post-run or pre-run eating. I'm a pescatarian, so I do have to be a little bit more conscious to like make sure I'm consuming iron through food and having my proteins. So it's not that I'm not like actively thinking, hey, put in that scoop of protein powder, or hey, I haven't had anything green all day because I've had 2 smoothies, maybe a denser dinner. So I do try to really kind of, be proactive and think about it and plan ahead. But a lot of it is more just taking out the bad food term and realizing that, like, what, sometimes if you just want to put like a couple of chocolate chips like on top of your acai bowl, like it's probably just going to make you smile and feel a little better for the next couple hours, and shouldn't take away from the rest of your day because you felt guilty about eating those chocolate chips. I kind of already know the quote unquote good foods.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing now is knowing nothing's actually a bad food. And it's okay to sometimes lean into cravings. And you know what? If it's like an hour before a workout, like maybe not do that because I'm going to get an upset stomach and, X, Y, and Z. But in general, just maybe taking a little bit more of the emotions around eating and learning how to make them positive versus negative.
And I like how you said too, it's like, okay, I'm figuring out the foods that I like, that I want. All foods can be good. There are no bad foods. But as a high-performing athlete, it's just figuring out kind of what are the gentle nudges almost.
Yes, exactly.
And yeah, I can eat ice cream. That's not a problem, but I'm probably not going to do it right before a workout, because I'm going to have a different priority. There's like a priority for your fun foods and maybe a priority for foods that you kind of need. Oh, I need more protein in my diet today. I haven't quite gotten enough. But you can have it all. And it's the power of you choosing what foods you want when. That's where the real power comes from.
And I also am going to say something that's maybe people will feel otherwise, but don't get your nutritional advice from athletes. Don't. Because you know what? Go to a nutritionist. Go to their Instagram page. Don't be getting it off of X, Y, and Z athlete who happens to also cook. And it's not to say that they don't have incredible recipes that are good, but it's more, one of the things I really loved about Shalane Flanagan's cookbook is she worked with an actual nutritionist dietitian who could say, yeah, this is actually the right way to go. And I think being able to lean on people who have expertise is super important because you don't know anything about anybody else's journey. And the number of pro runners who are gluten-free and like all these different things because they act like they have allergies. And I'm like, if you have disordered eating, you're probably having trouble digesting foods. Like, if those of you out there who have similarly overcome disordered eating, you suddenly learn, oh my God, I can eat bread. It doesn't kill me. It was just the disordered eating that one.
Yes.
So this is all just to say, go to experts for expert advice. Follow runners for running advice. That's my little 2 cents.
Like you, even as a professional runner, never really had formal nutrition education from or nutrition guidance from a dietitian. Am I correct in saying I'm the first dietitian that you're working with, or sports dietitian? Or
yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people have been nutritionists, or in the case of this coach's wife, I don't know what she was.
Yeah, and this is a thing because health and nutrition information is so widely available, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's right or that it's coming from a professional or that it's right for you. And so it is something to proceed with caution. And Mary, I'm just grateful that after everything you've been through, that you are now like this year, so many amazing things happening for you and moving forward. That's the phrase that I've been really clinging on to lately. And I think it's perfect for you. It's just moving forward. Okay. Like surgery. How can I move forward with surgery? Nutrition. How can I move forward with nutrition? Whether it's because of or in spite of what happened in the past, how can I move forward to be the best version of myself and my whole self as an athlete, as a worker, as an employee, and as an advocate for these things that I care about in my life. It's amazing to see all you've done in the past year, and I think you're going to continue to do so many more amazing things in the running community and beyond.
No, I really appreciate you saying that. And I also, of course, appreciate, Lindsay, all of the help that you've provided over the last, I guess it's been maybe 6 months or more of time that we've been working together. And I think, even having just this extra level of confidence myself in some of the conversations that I've been having around issues like nutrition, I think, again, working with a professional is something that I really wish my younger self had done. I just totally honestly, like I've told people, I wish I had gone to a rehab center back when I was like in the throes. And I think that's something that it's really rare for people to hear that. But I just want anybody who's out there who is maybe struggling or themselves kind of wondering, do I have something? Yeah. Talk to a professional. And find the right one, find somebody who you feel comfortable with and, who's going to support you, but definitely find somebody who knows what they're doing.
Well, I want to finish our episode today with some kind of rapid fire questions, just some quick things. So Mary, if you have a favorite food, one that you could eat every single day for the rest of your life and never get sick of it, what would that be?
I think it would be my morning smoothies. I've already talked about them like 4 times, but like, I don't know. I just love like frozen banana. Makes everything feel like you're eating ice cream. Some days if you're feeling like I need a little bit more, you throw some granola on there, scoop of protein powder. I just think it sets me up where I get enough fiber and protein. And I feel like from the get-go, I could eat bread the rest of the day, and I've almost had like a little bit of a treat in the morning. I think it just sets me up more for success.
My next question is, if there's a female athlete that is a role model for you or that you look up to and are inspired by, who would that be and why?
Definitely Megan Rapinoe. First off, she's been incredibly kind to me over the last year. We kind of got to know each other because she had reached out after I came out with my New York Times piece, and we got to hang out during the Sports Illustrated Person of the Year award party that she won. And then otherwise, just at different points, has been incredibly encouraging. Even when I told her I was having surgery, she's like, sometimes you need that. All good. So I think that personal kindness is, a big part of it. But then beyond that, the reason Megan Rapinoe matters is because of what she does off the field. We will remember Megan Rapinoe 30, 40 years from now. It's the athletes who just stand by and think that athletic performance matters and don't realize that it's how you use your athletic performance to find a voice that I think, those people should be looking at Megan Rapinoe and taking some notes.
What's one thing that listeners can kind of take action on right away? If there's, out of everything we talked about, something that you would want listeners to kind of grab onto and take action on that will change their life, what would that be? Yeah,
I think the biggest thing is, when in doubt, talk to a professional. And don't fear truth. Truth is incredibly powerful. Sometimes it can be hard to hear. Sometimes it can make you sad. Sometimes you could wish it wasn't true. But knowledge is power, and, truth is knowledge. Always talk to somebody. And maybe you don't even think you have a problem right now. Maybe you're really new to running. You're like 12 years old. You've just gotten into the sport. You know what? I would recommend that you find somebody, you develop a connection now, because then it's more likely that they're going to be able to prevent you from falling into, falling off the cliff like I did. I know working with Lindsay, it really opened my eyes to a lot of the, I think, kind of fears around food that I still harbor. If you watch me on a day-to-day, you would probably give me a thumbs up when it came to how I eat, but that didn't mean the thoughts in my head were healthy.
That's great advice, Mary, to seek help from a professional, even if you're unsure if you even need it. It doesn't hurt. So thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing everything, sharing your story. And we're excited to continue following you and see what 2021 brings your way as well.